newspaper and
We have the Hope newspaper, we have the Daily Post newspaper, and the nation.
glad to know you're still there. It's iPower 102.7 FM and the program is in the papers. Beginning with the story I have here from the Hope newspaper, it says federal government plans low-key 65th independence celebration.
Still on the Hope newspaper as well, we have Ondo State government releases the result of secondary school certificate exam.
And still talking on those states from the Hope newspaper, we have Ondo Health Commissioner seeks stakeholders alignment for program stability, sustainability.
Still on the Hope newspaper as well. Moving on to the Nation newspaper, where I have the story coming through your ear. We have Ondo faculty lecturer threatening strike, disputes, and threatening to for resumption and convocation over unpaid salaries.
And away from that to the Punch newspaper, where we have Nigeria at 65, FG cancels Independence Day parade.
Moving on to the Punch newspaper, where we have NLC mobilizes workers for strike against refinery.
Still talking refinery from the Punch newspaper, we have NNPC Dangote refinery signs fresh 2 years crude deal.
Still on the Punch newspaper, where I have the story coming through your ear, we have FIFA and Nigerian World Cup boost after South Africa sanction.
Away from that and to the Nation newspaper, where we have ASU issues 14-day ultimatum to federal government over demand.
Let me join you on the Nation newspaper, where we have PDP will retain Oyo in 2027, says Makinde.
Of course, still on the Nation newspaper, we have Nigeria's prosperity inseparable from future of northern Nigeria.
Still on the Nation newspaper, where we have Tinubu, Governor APC Chief in Imo for Uzadima for book launching.
And yes, still on the Nation newspaper, we have Presidency Jonathan welcomes to 2027 race.
Moving on to the Punch newspaper, where we have Abuja Kaduna train platform open for ticket payments.
Away from that to the Guardian newspaper, where we have 2.3 million learners benefit from basic education interventions.
Still on the Daily Post newspaper, where we have protest rock Lagos over trade fair demolition by state government.
And still taking stories from the Guardian, where we have Borno overtake Oshun as voters registration hits 6.2 million.
Still taking story from Osun State, we have Oyetola vows APC will reclaim Osun in 2026 elections.
Yeah, talking from the Guardian newspaper, where we have Air Force rates bandits hideout in Kwara.
Moving on to the Nation newspaper, where we have 2027 ex-president Jonathan just one of our options, says PDP.
Talking from the Guardian newspaper, we have police to commence enforcement of tinted glass permit despite court notice.
And with that, we'll go on a short break. When we come back, we'll give you details of this story and more.
Welcome back. It's the iPower 102.7 FM and the program is in the papers. Now to the first story for today, where we have federal government plans low-key 65th independence celebration. Now, the details. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has said the federal government is planning a low-key celebration for Nigeria's 65th Independence Day anniversary. Idris disclosed this after pre-Independence Watch press conference on Monday in Abuja. Theme: the theme of the celebration is all hands on deck. Activities will be low key, with we started with the Jumat prayers on Friday and a Thanksgiving service on Sunday. The National Value Charter, championed by the National Orientation Agency, now is also will also be unveiled. The National Student Debate is another activity that will be held to mark the 65th Independence Day celebration, he said. The news agency of Nigeria reports that the National Value Charter, developed by the NOA, is a framework for cultivating national pride and fostering responsible citizens by outlining both the government's commitment and citizens' obligations. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper with the headline Every Plans Low Key 65th Independence Celebration.
On the Hope newspaper as well, we have Ondo government releases the result of secondary school certificate exam. Now, to the detail of the story. Ondo State government has released the result of Basic Education Certificate Examination BECE result for Junior Secondary School JS3. The examination was conducted for students in all the public and private schools in the state. According to the statement signed by the press officer, Ministry of Education, Science and Technology BC Lawani, and released on Monday, the Administrative Secretary of the Ministry, Dr. Akinlede Ige, enjoined parents and caregivers to henceforth check the result of the children's words on the ministry website www.odsgexams.com using their registration PIN numbers. For more detail of this story, check the Open newspaper with the headline Ondo government releases result of secondary school certificate exam.
Still taking stories on the Independence Day, and straight to the point where we have FG cancels Independence Day parade. Now the details. The federal government has cancelled the parade earlier scheduled to mark the 65th Nigerian 65th independence anniversary on Wednesday, October 1st. The announcement was contained in a statement issued on Monday by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The statement reads, the federal government wishes to announce the cancellation of the Independence Anniversary Parade previously scheduled to mark the 65th independence on Wednesday, 1st October. The cancellation is in no way a diminishment of the significance of this milestone anniversary. The statement signed by the Director of Information and Public Relations, Shegun Ihosen, read. It added that the government regrets any inconveniences caused, but stressed that their other activities lined up for the anniversary will proceed as scheduled. This includes the traditional presidential broadcast, the cultural programs, and the grand finale of the National Campus Debate. At the World Press Conference in Abuja on Monday, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, explained that the independence is not only a ceremonial date but also opportunity to have a sober reflection and renewed patriotism. For details of that story, see the Punch newspaper with the headline Nigeria at 65, FG cancels Independence Day parade.
Away from that to the Nation newspaper, but still taking story from Ondo State. We have Ondo faculty lecturers threatening to disrupt resumption convocation over unpaid salaries. Now to the story. Lecturers at Adekunle Ajasi University Akumba Akoko AAUA, owned by Ondo State government, are threatening to disrupt the planned resumption of students and the forthcoming convocation if their outstanding salaries are not paid. The lecturers under the umbrella of ASU embarked on strike last month over non-payment of their salaries and arrears, a development that has since paralyzed the academic and social activities on campus. The chairman of AAUA ASU, Dr. Bolauji Oshodi, said the lecturers had exercised enough patience over the alleged refusal by government to address their plight. He said, and I quote, "We have been patient and tolerant for long, but this time we won't be again. Our people have been pushed to the wall. We are not seeing any effort that can signal that the state government is ready to do the right thing. Oshodi said this while addressing the press. He said effort to meet with Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa had been unsuccessful. For more detail of this particular story, check the Nation newspaper with the headline Ondo Faculty lecturers threaten to disrupt resumption convocation over unpaid salaries.
Still taking stories from Ondo State, where we have Ondo Health Commissioner seeks stakeholders alignment for program sustainability. Still taking stories from the Hope newspaper. The need for stakeholders in the health sector to align their programs with that of the government for sustainability has been stressed. Commissioner for Health Dr. Banji Ajaka spoke while delivering his welcome remarks at the two-day program review meeting and stakeholders engagement in Akure on Monday. According to him, there is need for sustainability of all health programs by working on initiatives that can help sustain and fund programs as and when due. He explained that it is important that all health ministry, departments and agencies promote the sector as the number one sector, saying health is wealth. He called for the need to propose a bill to put a certain percentage of the internal generated revenue to be in the health sector in order to fund health programs for the improvement of the sector. For details of that story, see the Hope newspaper with the headline Ondo Health Commissioner seeks stakeholders alignment for program sustainability.
Moving on to the Punch newspaper, where we have the biggest headline. We have NLC mobilizes workers for strike against refinery. Now to the story. The Nigerian Labour Congress has directed its affiliated union to begin urgent mobilization and prepare for the nationwide industrial action against the Dangote Group, accusing the conglomerate of sustained anti-workers practices. This came as the nationwide strike declared by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria on Monday against the refinery paralyzed operation at key oil and gas regulatory institutions, including the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority. And also on Monday, the National Industrial Court in Abuja restrained Pegasus from embarking on its industrial action against the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemical FSE, barring the union from halting crude oil and gas supply to the $20 billion Lekki-based refinery. However, Pegasus declared that it was not aware of the court injunction, arguing that the court order or process were served via a court bailiff and not through social media. In an internal memo shared with the Punch on Monday, addressed to the President and the General Secretary of Affiliates Union, NLC President Joe Ajero placed NLC affiliates on alert. The directive followed a clash between Dangote Refinery and Pegasus. The oil union earlier announced that more than 800 workers at the Dangote Refinery were dismissed after attempting to unionize. The union alleged that many of the jobs were replaced within or with more than 22,000 expatriates, mainly from India. Now, Dangote has denied the accusation, saying the layoff were part of his instruction to improve safety and prevent sabotage, adding that over 3,000 Nigerians remain employed. For more detail of this story, check the Punch newspaper with the headline NLC mobilize workers for strike against refinery.
You're still listening to iPower 102.7 FM. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we continue the rest of the story. Welcome back. It's still iPower 102.7 FM, and the program is in the papers. For your feedback and comments on the stories read so far, you can reach us on all our social media handles: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and X on iPower 1027 FM. iPower 1027 FM. On X is iPower 1027. And of course, you can call us in on the studio line 0816 552 4699. 0816 552 4699. And away from that, now to the point where we have NNPC Dangote Refinery signs fresh 2 year crude deal. Now the details. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has signed another 2 year crude supply agreement with the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. The Punch gathered that the deal signed last month would ensure that a steady supply of crude oil to the 650,000 barrel per day refinery located in Lekki, Lagos. It was further gathered that the deal is in line with the federal government's determination to supply more crude oil to the facilities, especially in Naira. The Punch learned that about 82 million barrels of crude have been allocated to the refinery from October 2024 to date. Out of the 82 million barrels, 60% being 49.3 million barrels was sold in Naira to the refinery, according to the details obtained from NNPC on Monday. Recall that Dangote Refinery recently announced stopping petrol sales in Naira, citing the extortation of its crude for Naira allocation as the reason. But hours later, the Naira for Crude Technical Committee chairman intervened and the company announced a resumption of PMS sales in Naira. Speaking with our correspondent, the chief corporate communication officer of NNPC, Andy O'Day, said the company had continued to allocate crude to the refine to the refine in Naira. According to the NNPC Dangote Refinery and the Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authorities periodically reconcile the volume and cost of crude oil supply in Naira commensurate with the crude oil delivery. For details of that story, to the Punch newspaper with the headline NNPC Dangote Refinery signed fresh 2 year crude deal.
Let me join you shortly on the Punch newspaper as well, where we have this story coming through your air. We have Abuja Kaduna train platform open for ticket payment, says Nigerian Railway Corporation. Now, to the story. The Nigerian Railway Corporation says the online ticketing platform for the Abuja Kaduna train service is now open for payment. The Chief Public Relations Officer, NRC, Mr. Callistus Uimadu, said this in a statement on Tuesday in Lagos. He said the passengers were therefore encouraged to book their tickets online ahead of the resumption on October 1 and also visit their official website to purchase their ticket. According to him, in preparation for the resumption of services, the journey time has been reduced following a review of the temporary speed restriction to enhance operations. The new schedule is as follows: Abuja Kaduna from 8:45 a.m., Kubwa from 9:10 a.m., Rigas arrive from 11:47 a.m. Kaduna to Abuja from Rigaza is from 2:30 p.m., while from Kubwa is 5:12 p.m. and Idu arrives at 5:32 p.m. He, however, added that the management of NRC appreciated the patience and the understanding of its esteemed passengers during the suspended period. For more detail of this particular story, check the Punch newspaper with the headline Abuja Kaduna train platform open for ticket payment, says Nigerian Railway Corporation.
And to the Nation newspaper, where we have a story on ASU. ASU issues 14-day ultimatum to federal government over demand. Now the details. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has given the federal government a 14-day ultimatum to address its 7-point demand of phased industrial actions. The union reached the decision at its National Executive Council meeting on Sunday at the University of Abuja. National President of ASU, Professor Chris Piwana, disclosed that disclosed this in a strike notice personally signed by and released to journalists on Monday in Abuja. It explained that the notice starting from Sunday, September 28, 2025, will be first heard a two week warning strike before embarking on a total and indefinite strike over the federal government's attitude towards resolving pending issues. In the notice, ASU listed seven demands that the government should address to avert the closure of public universities. Piwana listed ASU. For details of that story, see the nation's newspaper with the headline ASU issues 14-day ultimatum to federal government over demand.
And if you're just joining, you're onto In the Papers, a newspaper review program on I Power 102.7 FM in Murele or Ondo State. You can connect with us on all our social media platforms on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter on I Power 1027 FM. You can also reach out to us by calling us on this number to share your perspective, opinion about the stories read so far on 081 6552 4699. 081 6552 4699. Moving on with a story coming from the Daily Post newspaper, where I have Oyetola vows APC will claim Oshun in 2026 election. Now to the story. The Minister of Marine and Blueprint Economy, Adeboyega Oyetola, has reaffirmed the readiness of All Progressive Congress (APC) to return to power in Osun State in 2026. Oyetola gave the assurance during a special prayer session organized to mark the 71st birthday in Iragwiji on Monday. The former Osun State Governor commended members of All Progressive Congress in the state for their loyalty, unity, and dedication to the progress of the party. He said, and I quote, "We are committed and fully prepared to return our great party, the APC, to government in Osun come 2026. He also expressed delight at the peace and cohesion within the rank of the party, describing it as a major strength and that would aid its return to power. He said, and I quote again, he said, "Your unwavering commitment to unity, oneness, and progress of the party keep us going and strengthen our collective resolve." He said again, he also urged leaders and members of the APC across the state to remain steadfast and focused as the party prepared for the next election cycle. For more detail of this particular story, check the Daily Post newspaper with the headline Oyetola vows APC will claim Osun in 2026 election.
Still taking stories from the Nation newspaper, where I have Nigerians' prosperity inseparable from future of northern Nigeria, says Tinubu. President Bola Tinubu on Monday said Nigerians' prosperity is inseparable from the future of northern Nigeria. Tinubu, who was represented by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wali Edu, at the Nigerian Investment and Industrialization Summit 2025, organized under the leadership of the Northern Leader Forum (NEF) in Abuja, also said his administration is currently embarking on critical industrialization projects, basically for northern Nigeria. The president also commended NEF for the determination to change the narrative and also move to place the region in its rightful place as it used to be. According to NEF, the theme of the summit is unlocking northern Nigerians' mining, agriculture, and power potential, and MAP 2035. It is a 10-year blueprint for transformation and framework design to reposition northern Nigeria as a hub of innovation, industrialization, and inclusive growth. He said, "The future of Nigerians' prosperity is inseparable from the future of northern Nigeria. If we unlock the northern mineral, we secure a new era of industrial competitiveness. If we unlock the northern agriculture, we guarantee food security and global exports leadership. If we unlock the northern path, we ignite a wave of industrialization and we employ millions of Nigerians. For details of that story, see the Nation's newspaper with the headlines: Nigerians' prosperity is inseparable from the future of northern Nigeria, says Tinubu.
On the Nation newspaper as well, we have PDP will retain Oyo in 2027, says Makinde. Now to the story. Governor Sheyi Makinde of Oyo State has declared that the People's Democratic Party (PDP) will remain in office beyond 2027 in the state. He added that the party will also reclaim the presidency and win massively in the next general election. The governor stated this on Monday at the Oyo State PDP State Congress, citing the party's respect for internal democracy and the amicable conduct of its congresses as a pointer to its strength. He spoke while addressing party faithful at the basketball area of Lekon Salami Sport Complex Adamasingba Ibadan venue of the State Congress, which was attended by the PDP wards and local government executive and 8 ad hoc delegates and stakeholders of the party from the 33 local government area of the state. The governor commended the rancor-free congress held by the PDP from ward to local government and the state levels, noting that the process would ensure the party retention of power beyond 2027 in Oyo State. He tasked the new state executive member to work hard toward ensuring the victory of the PDP in all elections, beginning from local to the national level. For more detail of this story, check the Nation newspaper with the headline PDP will retain Oyo in 2027, says Makinde.
And still talking stories from the Nation newspaper where we have Presidency Jonathan welcome to 2027 race. Now the details. The presidency on Monday said the former president Goodluck Jonathan is free to contest the 2027 presidential election, but argued that Nigerians will judge him on what he described as dismal record in office, while contrasting the period with what is called the giant economic stride of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In a statement by the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, the presidency said the earlier judgment of 2027 has been prematurely foisted on the nation by the desperation of the opposition ganging up against President Bola Tinubu, dismissing recent political rhetoric as a cacophony of voice, most of them full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. The statement singled out former Minister of Information Professor Jerry Gana over his reported move to draft Jonathan into the 2027 presidential contest on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, which it described as discredited and responsible for a legacy of economic ruin after 16 years of bad governance. It said Ghana was free to delude himself and engage in his usual comedy, adding that Jonathan's entry would provide another job for the former university don. For details of that story, see the Nation's newspaper with the headline Presidency Jonathan welcome to 2027 race.
On the Punch newspaper, we have FIFA and Nigerian World Cup boost after South Africa sanction. Now to the story. The race for qualification in Group C of the 2026 FIFA World Cup African qualifier has been dramatically reopened after FIFA sanctioned South Africa for fielding an illegible player, awarding a 3-0 victory to Lesotho on Monday. The match, which originally ended 2-0 in favor of South Africa in March, was overturned by the FIFA disciplinary committee after it was confirmed that midfielder Tiboho Mokono should not have been fielded. As a result, South Africa lost the 3 points, Lesotho gained them, and the balance of the group has shifted significantly. The ruling means both Benin and South Africa are tied to 14 points at the top after 8 games, with Benin ahead on goal difference Nigeria and Rwanda are just behind on 11 points each, while Lesotho, boosted by the disciplinary ruling, now occupy the fifth position with 9 points. Zimbabwe, with only 4 points, are already eliminated in the group. For more detail of this story, check the Punch newspaper with the headline: FIFA and Nigeria World Cup boost after South Africa sanctions.
And straight to the Guardian newspaper, where we have 2.3 million learners benefit from basic education interventions. Now the details. The federal government yesterday disclosed that its impact on basic education nationwide has positively affected 2.3 million learners in the last 6 months. It also revealed plans to reintroduce the school feeding program by deploying technology to pay mothers directly, ensuring that children are well fed. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, made the disclosure in Abuja while delivering a keynote address at the launch of the Federal Ministry of Education's Communications Strategy 2025-2027. According to him, 21 states have migrated their data into the Nigerian Education Data Initiative and unified, centralized, and secure data repository for all levels of education in the country. The annual school census data have now been onboarded to the ENEDI platform. 21 states have migrated their data into it. We now have the capacity to monitor a child from primary to secondary school, and we will also extend it to the tertiary level soon, Alausa said. The ministry explained that the government was working on piloting and reintroducing school feeding programs to improve learning outcome and child nutrition. In his words, he said, "We are going to be piloting the school feeding program. We have identified the states where we will start, and we will deploy technology for this purpose by compensating mothers to ensure that their children are well fed. Mechanisms have been put in place to ensure transparency and accountability in the process." For details of that story, to the Guardian newspaper with the headline: 2.3 million learners benefit from basic education intervention.
Moving on to the Daily Post newspaper, where we have protest rocks Lagos over trade fair demolition by state government. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we'll read the details of the story and more to come. Welcome back. You are still on to In the Papers, the newspaper radio program on iPower 102.7 FM, Emurele Owo, Ondo State. You can connect with us or join us on our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, formerly known as Twitter, on iPower 1027 FM. You can also call us to reach out to us to share your perspective, your opinion about the stories headline read so far. You can call us on 081 65524699, 081 65524699. Moving on with the story coming from the Daily Post newspaper. Protest rocks Lagos over trade fair demolition by state government. Now to the story. Hundreds of traders, predominantly of Igbo origin, under the umbrella of the Trade Fair Stakeholders Association, staged a protest yesterday over the demolition of their business premises at Lagos International Trade Fair Complex, which they describe as willful, malicious, and illegal, carrying placards with inscriptions such as "Stop destroying our properties," "Our building are federal government approved," and this complex is regulated by the federal government. The aggrieved traders accused the Lagos State government of flouting due process and acting beyond its power. It is reported that more than 19 buildings at the new Mandela Plaza within the complex were pulled down in a large-scale demolition exercise executed under heavy security. The operation, supervised by officials of the state government, was backed by the task force operatives, rapid response squad personnel, and tactical arrest team who condoned off the plaza and prevented traders from demonstrating on the accident. Speaking to the journalist, Chief Eric Ilechuku, chairman of the stakeholders forum, alleged that the state officials stormed the complex on September 25th in commando style and destroyed several structures without issuing any notice. He insisted that the demolition buildings were unlawful, approved by the Lagos International Trade Fair Complex Management Board, the statutory authority empowered by the federal law to regulate the activities within the complex. For more detail of the story, check the Daily Post newspaper with the headline Protest Rocks Lagos over Trade Fair Demolition by State Government.
Still taking stories from the Guardian newspaper where we have Borno overtakes Oshun as voters registration hit 6.2 million. Now the details. Borno State emerged as the state with the highest number of online pre-registration in the ongoing continuous voters registration CVR exercise, displacing Oshun from the top spot as the process enters its sixth week. According to the latest figure released yesterday by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for the period of September 22 to 28, 2025, a total of 6,232,673 Nigerians have so far pre-registered online. Borno recorded 682,805 registration, representing 10.96% of the total and the highest by any state so far. Osun, which had consistently led in the previous week, slipped to a second place with 599,363, with that of 9.62%, followed closely by Lagos, KB, and Ogun. The data also revealed that young Nigerians remain dominant demographic in the CVR exercise of a total of 4 million. 4 million youths aged between 18 and 34, while 1,565,824 are students. Women to outnumber men with 3,250,338 and with the percent of 52.15%, while pre-registering compared to the male, which is 2,982,335, amounting to 47.85%. In addition, INEC hinted that 137,865 persons with disabilities have also registered online, reflecting growing inclusion in the electoral process. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with the headline Borno overtakes Osun as voters registration hits 6.2 million.
Reading from the Nation newspaper, we have 2027 ex-president Jonathan Just, one of our options, says PDP. Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan is one of the options on the People's Democratic Party shopping list for presidential candidate in 2027, the party said. It is also said that it was too late for allies of All Progressive Congress in and outside this PDP to stop its convention build for November 15 and 16 in Ibadan, Oyo State. The party spoke yesterday through its National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Debo Ologunagba, who doubled as the Secretary of the Public Subcommittee of PDP National Convention Organizing Committee. He told reporters in Abuja that the PDP extended the deadline for submission of nomination forms so that further consultation can be conducted for states to take the final decision on micro-zoning of position, saying he is neither the spokesman for Professor Jerry Ghana nor Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, who Ghana recently described as PDP likely choice for presidential candidate in 2027. Ologunagba said the party boasts of performing governors and other excellent personalities who may be considered for the party's ticket, He said, and I quote, I don't think for Professor Ghana or former President Jonathan, but our party has many worthy personalities, and we shall cross the bridge when we reach there. Or on reports the, that a faction backed by the Federal Capital Territory FCT Minister Nelson Wike has successfully conducted a state congress and re-elected PDP former National Publicity Secretary Venetius Ikem as its chairman. Ologunagba dismissed such preparation. Ologunagba dismissed such perception as mere hallucination. For more detail of this story, check the Nation newspaper with the headline 2027 ex-president Jonathan just one of our options, says PDP.
And still on the Guardian newspaper, where we have Air Force raid bandit hideout in Kwara. Now the details. The Nigerian Air Force NAF has pounded bandits location across the Kakikun Okeodo, Babanla and the surroundings area in Kwara State after the Sunday morning attack on the Okeodo community in Ifelo, the local council of the state. The armed men had stormed the Ogbayo area of Okeodo, shooting sporadically and targeting members of the local vigilante, and eventually killing 12 persons, including the Bale of the Ogbayo. In the process, NAF's Director of the Public Relations and Information, Air Commando Eime Ejadone, in a statement yesterday said the reconnaissance and close air support operation were executed to deter threats, while hostile elements sighted east at the Babanla were decisively engaged. According to him, concurrent surveillance flights also covered key settlements and military positions, gathering critical intelligence to support ground force. He said the mission, which reaffirmed the force commitment to protecting troops and civilians, maintain air superiority and sustained pressure on hostile actors while all operations were completely successful. The NAF assured Nigerians of its unwavering resolve to defend the national territory integrity and safeguarding communities against threats. For details of that story, to the Guardian newspaper with the headline Air Force raid bandit hideout in Kwara.
Still on the Nation newspaper, where I have Tinubu governors APC chiefs in Imo for Uzedima's book. Now to the story. President Bola Tinubu will today present the book A Decade of Impactful Progress Governance in Nigeria, written by Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma in Owerri. The president is on a one-day visit to the heartland of the southeast. Governors, business leaders, senior figures of the ruling All Progressive Party, and many influential Nigerians are expected in the Imo State capital for the event. Other assignments of the president include inauguration of key development projects undertaken by Governor Uzodinma, who is the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum (PGF) and a major ally of the president. Among the projects are roads, the iconic Azumta flyover, and the Emmanuel Iwanyahu International Conference Center, venue of the book presentation. The book is to showcase the achievement of the APC-led federal government in the last 10 years, spanning the 8 year tenure of the late President Muhammad Buhari and 2 years of President Tinubu. According to him, the APC National Chairman, Professor Inweti Ilwatda, will lead the National Working Committee of the party as well as the state chairman of the event. The Sultan of Sokoto, the Oni of Ife, and Obi of Onisha will lead the referred Nigerian traditional leaders to Owerri, while the chairman of Imo State Council of Inde Ize Gozwin Okeke, will be on hand to receive them. For more detail of the story, check the Nation newspaper with the headline Tinubu Governors APC Chiefs in Imo for Uzodinma's book.
Still taking stories from the Guardian newspaper where we have police to commence enforcement of tinted glass permit despite court notice. Despite ongoing court proceedings in the Nigerian Police Force (NPF) says it is prepared to begin enforcing the tinted glass permit policy on October 2. In April 2025, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, introduced a policy requiring motorists to obtain annual tinted glass permits from the NPF at a cost of 14,200. In August 2025, the IGP approved a 52-day extension of the enforcement deadline, moving the commencement date to October 2, 2025. The police cited a significant rise in permit application through the official portal as evidence of growing public compliance with the directive. However, at the National Executive Council meeting of the Nigerian Bar Association (LBA) held on August 23rd, 2025 in Enugu, the association announced plans to challenge the legacy the legality of the tinted glass permit policy in court. It described the policy as a violation of citizens' rights and raised several concerns, including questions over the validity of the Motor Tinted Glass Prohibition Act, Decree 1991, a military-era law under which the police have anchored the directive. Against the backdrop, the NBA, through its section on public interest and development law, filed a public interest suit at the Federal High Court Abuja on September 2, 2025. For details of that story, see the Guardian newspaper with the headline: Police to commence enforcement of tinted glass permits despite court notice.
Lastly, reading from the Daily Post newspaper, where I have Abia government agency denies selling slots for healthcare workers recruitment. Now, to the story. Abia State Civil Service Commission has debunked a recent publication claiming the sales of slots for ongoing recruitment of 771 health workers in the state. It also encouraged anyone with verifiable information about such infraction or attempted misrepresentation of the commission to report it immediately for true investigation and decisive action. A statement signed by Enojeri Eze, the chairman of Abia State Civil Service Commission, said that our office implemented a robust recruitment process that ensures transparency, fairness, and meritry at every stage. Eze, who said the application is computer-based test (CBT) and interview process were designed to eliminate biases, explaining that the formula was to ensure that only best and qualified candidates were selected for valuable position. For more detail of the story, check the Daily Post newspaper with the headline: Abia Government Agency denies selling slot for healthcare workers recruitment.
Also taking stories from this day newspaper where we have out of school challenge. Gombe First Lady flags off free children registration in schools. Now details. As part of government commitment to reduce the number of out of school children in the state, Gombe State First Lady Adia Ashamu Inuwa Yaaya has flagged off free registration of children in Gombe local government area of the state into schools. This day reports that the state has not less than 787,619 out of school children out of the 4 million population of the state. Worried by the figure, the state government through the state's Universal Basic Education Shabab, in collaboration with the Universal Basic Education Committee (UBEC) and the United Nations Children Fund (UNICEF), launched enrollment drive campaign to reduce the number of out-of-school children by 50% by the end of 2030. The state launched the scheme by registering children free of charge in schools in the 11 local government area of the state and providing school materials. While flagging off the enrollment program at Gombe local government area on Monday, the First Lady urged parents to cooperate towards the successful implementation of the program by enrolling their children to school. She stated that the state governor was committed to the welfare of the child in the state that includes education, healthcare, and nutrition. In a speech, the executive chairman of Gombe State Universal Basic Education, Shube Babaji Babandidi, said that the enrollment drive was designed to develop a behavioral change communication system to achieve retention, com- completion, and transition of the out of school children to formal education. For details of that story, see this day newspaper with the headline Out of School Challenge. Gombe First Lady flags off free children's registrations in schools.
And with that, we've come to the end of today's edition of In the Papers, a newspaper review program on IFA 102.7 FM. You can also comment by sharing your perspective, your opinion on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or X, or on our YouTube page by searching for I Power 1027 FM, HIPOWER 1027 FM. You can also call us to reach out for your opinion, to share your views on the program. The headline story read so far on 081 65524699, 081 65524699. We begin the stories for today from the Hope newspaper, where we brought to you that Ondo government releases results of secondary school certificate exam.
Okay, starting from this day, which is the last story I read, Out of School Challenge, Gombe First Lady flags off free children registration in schools.
And I move swiftly to the Nation newspaper, where I brought to you that Ondo varsity lecturers threaten to disrupt resumption convocation over unpaid salaries.
And also, we read to you from the Hope newspaper, the federal government plans low-key 65th independence celebration.
And then we move straightly to the Punch newspaper, where we brought to you the biggest headline from the Punch newspaper for today. NLC mobilizes workers for strike against refinery.
And of course, still taking stories, the headline from the Hope newspaper, where we said Ondo Health Commissioner seeks stakeholders alignment for program sustainability.
On the Punch newspaper as well, we brought to you that Abuja Kaduna train platform opened for ticket payment, says Nigerian Railway Corporation.
We also read to you that Nigeria at 65, federal government cancels Independence Day parade.
Then we move swiftly to the Daily Post newspaper, where we brought to you that Oyetola vows APC will claim Osun in 2026 elections.
Also from the Punch, we read to you that NNPC Dangote Refinery signs fresh 2-year crude deal.
On the Nation newspaper, we brought to you that the PDP will retain Oyo in 2027, says Makinde.
We also told you from the Nation newspaper that ASU issues 14-day ultimatum to federal government over demand.
While on the Punch newspaper, we brought to you that FIFA and Nigeria World Cup boost after South Africa sanctions.
Also, we read to you from the Nation that Nigerians' prosperity inseparable from future of northern Nigeria, says Tinubu.
Then we diverted to the Daily Post newspaper, where we brought to you that protest rocks Lagos over trade fair demolition by state government.
We equally informed you from the Nation that presidency Jonathan welcomes to 2027 race.
Then we move swiftly to the Nation newspaper, where we brought to you that 2027 ex-president Jonathan just won over option, says PDP.
And from the Guardian, we read to you that Borno overtakes Osun as voters registration hits 6.2 million.
On the Nation newspaper as well, we brought to you that Tinubu governors APC chiefs in Imo for Ozadima's book.
And that is how far we'll be going today, where we draw the curtains for today's edition of In the Papers, where we've talked about where we've walked you through headlines and shared major stories with you of today's stories. And of course, I am Florence Ibarima.
And I am Drazak Alaway.
Till we come your way again, same time, same station. Don't go away because we have so much locked in programs for you today for your listening pleasure. Have a good morning.
Good morning.